Escape Engineers Inspector Summary video. We're here in East Orange. We have a fire escape system here that is two parts. There's an older part, which is the upper part, and then we have a brand new part going down. Fire escape, this is a pre-load test visual examination, determining whether we're ready to proceed to a load test, or is there enough evidence of strength on this fire escape to avoid the load test. So in both cases, there's evidence of rust corrosion in some of these connections that need to be addressed first. There's evidence of not industry standard fabrication and installation of the fire escape system, so that needs to be addressed. And then once that's done, we can either issue a load test request for this fire escape, or we can, in lieu of a load test, if the work is significant and it satisfies the other evidence of strength, we will then issue a certification on this fire escape. So let's start up here. So again, got to verify all the connections into the building. They got a lot of major rust in the connections. Don't forget, because this fire escape has lead, the first thing is that whoever's going to scrape and paint this fire escape must be an EPA renovator, must have an EPA renovator's license so that he's dealing with lead. Number two, any activity on this fire escape is going to be bolted activity. So any welding company or ironwork company cannot come here and weld. They have to come in here and change bolts. So the majority of this fire escape is bolted. A majority of the work that needs to be done is going to be bolting, not welding. So no welding on anything that's presumed to have leads. So a lot of it is just changing a bolt to avoid the load test, or fixing a bolt because there's rust and corrosion. So the whole area needs to be cleaned. And then once the whole area is cleaned, then you put back a bolt. No welded connection. So any areas that have a huge accumulation of rust must be addressed immediately. Change those bolts. You change those bolts, you avoid the load test. Clean all this out, change the bolts, you avoid the load test. Change this out, you avoid the load test. If you leave a pre-existing bolt, like this one, it's a good bolt, you can leave it, but now we have to load test it. You change it, there is no load test. So these treads, same thing going down. Okay, let's see how it's tied back into the building. We're going to have to verify this during the load test process or the certification process. We're going to have to go inside and put a small probe to verify that it's just tied back into the interior of the building. But again, we got rust in here, so we got to clean all these out. All these treads, see all the rust. So once you clean out the rust and you put these treads back with new bolts, because this is original hardware, square head bolts. Once you take each tread out, clean it, put it back. Make sure you prime the rusty areas, put it back, put in new bolts, seal this with silicone so that the water doesn't do this anymore into the future. Okay, any place that has rust, you got to pull out the rust. As you can see, rust in the connections here. Clean all that out, rebolt it down, rebolt it sideways. See, look at that. The bolts are gone, the heads are gone. So all that needs to be done. Then you need to seal this because this is right up against your building. Make sure water's not getting in there. So this is, again, the original part of the fire escape system. It's resting on the roof, like that one. A lot of times when it's resting on the roof, it's also causing an issue on the roof. So if you want to verify that those are in good condition and then re-tar them, go ahead. Otherwise, sometimes it's better to just cut that off, put a new clip on it, and put a pressure-treated piece of wood underneath it, so that usually that rust will eat through the asphalt and cause a roof leak. But if you cut the leg and you give yourself 3 to 4 inches, you could then put in a pressure-treated piece of wood that rests on your roof, so that if you want to change this roof out in the future to asphalt again or new rubber roof, your fire escape is not tied into the system. So all of them have issues. Again, back to the building. So this is 50 to 75-year-old structure. The rust is caked on, heavy corrosion. In some cases, when the steel is bad, you're going to replace the steel or sister it to give it some additional strength. Change all the bolts. You avoid the load test. Leave behind original hardware. There is a load test. Any place that there's corrosion, you just don't seal it up. You got to open it up, change the bolts, and then you got to put it back together with new bolts, and then you got to seal it. Give it a paint job. From here on, the fire escape becomes an all welded fire escape. I think it was built here, but here's some of the concerns. As you can see, there's already separation in this bracket that ties in this angle to angle already separated here. A lot of welding, so they, you know, a lot of welding that is not even standard. So I wouldn't. You can load test or X-ray these welds, or as soon as you pop in a bolt, you negate the need to verify welds. And these welds, even though they're holding, you can see that a lot of these welds are not certified welds. They're just standard, you know, welding guy or ornamental ironwork guy welds. But you know, for me to certify, I need the bolt. Put a bolt. Otherwise, we can load test this if they don't want to put bolts in any of these connections. Okay, it is tied through bolted into the building. So again, we need to get access into the building during the final certification process, and that's usually a 1-inch hole. On the inside, we insert a probe, photograph the plate, and that's your verification. A lot of this was done here on site, so again, they welded, but to negate the need for a load test or an X-ray of this weld, you put in an angle clip here, put a bolt here, a bolt there, good. Okay, so treads, new bolts, but water's getting into them, so you don't have to change these treads out, but verify every tread that if there's any rust, change the bolt. But at least silicone shut these so that water stops going down. The issue on the brackets is a minimum standard weight on a bracket. Those are 1.5 inches. You're supposed to have 2-inch by quarter. So what you can do is sister. Even though they're welded, so I want bolts to basically negate the weld, or we're going to have to X-ray or load test these. But as soon as you sister that with another 1.5 inches, you don't need to put a 2-inch there. You can just sister it with another one. There's the minimum stand. So this is a pre-existing non-conforming structure. I don't know if it was done with a permit or not, but again, it was not built to industry standard. So as soon as you double up that angle, we're going to be good. Okay, we have all welded here. So as soon as you stop bolting some of this and sealing some of these joints, we can certify these things, because you're going to be bolting it and sealing it, because these welds have to be X-rayed or load tested. The flats that run this way need to be bolted. The flats that run this way don't need to be bolted. Okay, so the flats that run this way need to be bolted. The ones that run this way don't need to be bolted. Every welded connection on a rail, major structural, you put a bolt in it, I don't have to X-ray or load test. You leave it, I have to X-ray or load test to verify this platform. This platform here alone is 8 by 5. It's 40 square feet. So you're looking at about 4,000 pounds of sandbags that are going to be done on this. Okay, so there's the whole thing underneath. So that can be all changed out so that it's not, you know, pressure treated is between the roof. You know, I mean, you can just tar them like this, but you have to verify each one and then tar it up again. So somebody did one, but they didn't do any of the others. So that needs to be done on this fire escape here. All right, continuing. The reason why you have to be careful, you have to test every welded connection, because this is what happens. Even though the weld is there, look, I got a piece here that came off, and that's been welded. So what happens is the rust gets underneath and the weld breaks. This weld breaks the weld. So look, there's a broken weld right there. There's a broken weld right there, because it rusted from the inside out. So all welds must be X-rayed or load tested, or you put in bolts. You test every weld, but you put in bolts on the major structural, not the minor structural, but you test the minor structural, and you put bolts in every one of these connections. You avoid the load test. Otherwise, in order to certify this fire escape, either by load test or certification, I need to verify this. So this is a half and half fire escape. The older half is all bolted up there. The second half is all welded. And again, they didn't follow some industry standards, so they just welded the stringer on here. I need a clip over here, bolt this way, and it negates the need to load test or X-ray. All right, so coming down, same thing, all these posts, I need a bolt. And that way we can avoid the load test. You can do portions of this fire escape and then load test only portions, because you've negated some others. So you can do a partial load test. I need this to be sitting on a proper slab or properly located onto the ground, and then we need to tar the feet so they don't rot out, because those leaves and dirt will eat the feet on this thing. All right, again, improper bracket supports. We have a 2x2. It should have been a 2x2. Instead, they used 1.5 inches. So you put another 1.5 inches on the back and you bolt it together. You sister them, and that's equal to and greater than 2x2 angle by quarter. So sister an 1.5 inches here, sister an 1.5 inches here. Now, this area I don't like what happened here. The guy put in a post a single post, and that's just so that cars could come into the driveway, but I don't like it. So what we're going to need is a C channel. Most likely it's going to be a 5-inch C channel by quarter that starts there, bolts to that existing structure, comes underneath and all the way out to here. That's going to give you the cantilevering that you're looking for. Okay, then on this one, I don't know how deep this sono is, but we're going to have to investigate, because usually these have to be below the frost line, 3 to 4 feet, to carry this much weight. So we need to verify this, and this post is not sufficient. Usually it's a 4x4 angle that is standard for here. Not only to take a hit from a car if one should happen, but basically to carry that 5-inch C channel. And then on this 2x2 angle, we're probably gonna have to sister a 2x2 angle up to that 5-inch C channel, so that we got that strength here for the cantilevering. We're cantilevering it correctly. And on here I need the inside, I need a 4x4 somehow put into here. And as long as we have a good footing down there, it'll basically carry the weight. So it just needs to have this corner reinforced, and then she's going to be good to go. Doing all those things, you're going to avoid the load test. Again, this is just a preliminary pre-load test examination as to what needs to be done. All this will be shared with the owner and with the city official. Any questions? Farscape Engineers, 866-649-0333, 866-649-0333.